when you usually think about warfare, there is this expectation of a definitive front line, right?
Right, yeah, like a line on a map.
Exactly. You picture a line on a map that just pushes back and forth across a continent. But, I mean, when you step into the reality of the third millennium, that map isn't laid out flat on a table anymore.
No, it really isn't. It's entirely vertical.
Yeah, it is a planetary pressure cooker, just divided by atmospheric density and, thousands of meters of crushing, completely lightless ocean depth.
Which completely redefines the whole concept of a stalemate, really, because we aren't fighting over land masses anymore. We are fighting across this three-dimensional gradient of atmospheric and hydrostatic pressure.
Right.
And that has just completely rewritten the biological rules of survival for our entire species.
It really has. And welcome back to you, our listeners, for this special Sunday follow-up deep dive into the terrifying world of the year 3000.
Glad to be back.
So, in our past deep dives, we've walked you through the grueling tactical history of the Abyssal Cephalopoda invasion. You probably remember us covering those terrifying 100-foot biomechanical bioships.
Oh, yeah. And the brutal realities of those kinetic supercavitating torpedo exchanges.
Exactly. And that rigid, unmoving frontier of the bathypelagic axis at that 2,000-meter depth line.
Right. We spent a lot of time on the mechanics of the conflict, how those bioships maintain structural integrity and how human resistance actually operates in the deep ocean.
Yeah, the sheer physics of deploying weaponry under those extreme pressures. But today, though, we're stepping away from the battlefield history and the technical mechanics of all those weapons. Because today, we are attempting to answer a much bigger, much more, well, honestly, a much more terrifying question.
Which is, why are they really here?
Exactly. What is their actual long-term endgame for planet Earth?
And to get to the bottom of that endgame, we are going to unpack the three primary theoretical frameworks that have been developed by human alliance strategists and exobiologists.
Right, the big three.
Yeah. We will be analyzing the desperate parasite theory, the caste schism hypothesis, and finally, the terraforming theory.
Okay, let's unpack this because before we get to alien psychology and these grand theories, we need to establish the board as it stands today for humanity.
It's vital context, yeah.
Because you really can't grasp the weight of these theories without understanding the stakes for you and me, well, for humanity in the year 3000. So break those demographics down for us. Because the numbers left, they just paint a picture of a deeply, deeply fractured species.
They really do. As we look at the turn of the fourth millennium, the global human population has been reduced to roughly 1.2 billion people.
Which is just a staggering drop.
It is. And the way that population is distributed, well, it tells you everything you need to know about the current state of the planet. So let's look at the Human Alliance, or the HA.
Okay.
They represent about 420 million people, which is roughly 35% of the remaining population. But they are entirely concentrated in subterranean mountain complexes.
So you're talking about places like the Swiss Alps, right?
Right. The Swiss Alps, the Tibetan Massif, the Rocky Mountains.
But why high altitude? Is it literally just to get as far away from the water as possible?
Well, partially, yes. But it is mostly a matter of atmospheric pressure.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Because the invaders evolved in a hyper-pressurized deep sea environment. So the thin air and low pressure of high altitudes, it acts as a natural invisible barrier. Their biomechanical technology really struggles to operate up there.
That makes sense. But, I mean, life inside those bunkers must be intense.
Oh, absolutely. It's dictated by absolute rigid necessity. Birth rates are heavily restricted by HA High Command. Every single calorie is calculated.
Wow.
Their entire societal output is funneled directly into military manufacturing and research. It's a society engineered entirely for survival.
But as harsh as living in a mountain bunker sounds, I mean, they are the lucky ones.
Definitely.
Because then you look at where the majority of humanity actually is.
Yeah.
The coastal slave grid.
Yeah. This is where 750 million people currently exist.
Unbelievable.
That is 62% of the human race, just trapped in industrialized processing pods located in flooded former metropolitan regions, places like Tokyo, San Francisco, Sydney.
Right. And I understand the invaders use them for labor, building their quantum silicon components and expanding all that underwater infrastructure.
Yes, exactly.
But they're also physically harvesting them, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you manage a captive population of 750 million people without them just collapsing from the sheer physical toll?
It's dark. The invaders essentially use a masterclass in biological exploitation. They need human blood. specifically the hemoglobin and plasma.
Right.
And to maximize that yield without killing the host, the captive populations are subjected to really intense environmental cycling. So during their rest periods, humans are kept in hypobaric atmospheric chambers.
Okay, wait. Hypobaric meaning low oxygen. Right, like simulating the atmosphere at the top of a massive mountain.
Precisely. That forces the human body into a state of polycythemia. Polycythemia. It's a state where the body produces extreme levels of red blood cells to compensate for the lack of oxygen.
Oh, wow. So they're forcing their bodies to just overproduce blood.
Exactly. And then during their work shifts, the environment shifts back to meaning that synthetic blood lacks the chaotic natural quantum spin that living organisms produce. Under 1,000 atmospheres of deep ocean pressure, synthetics just degrade way too rapidly.
So they literally need the living biological engine.
Exactly. They turned the human respiratory system into a manufacturing variable.
That is just horrifying. And then what about the last remaining humans, the wastelanders?
Right. So the remaining 30 million people survive as nomads in the arid continental interiors, the Gobi Desert, the Australian outback.
Places the squids don't care about.
Exactly. Places with zero strategic value to the abyssals. They avoid the coastal grids and the mountain bunkers, living incredibly harsh lives. And they're constantly dodging abyssal bioscout vessels that conduct raids for wild blood samples.
Wild blood samples?
Yeah, to diversify their genetic stock.
Man. So if you look at this map, we are essentially looking at a species trapped in a planetary pressure cooker. With 750 million humans physically feeding their war machine. I mean, it feels like the invaders hold all the cards here.
It does look that way on paper.
Right. Are we entirely sure they aren't just invincible? Because on paper, they seem like untouched gods of the deep.
And that assumption was the prevailing thought for decades. But the first major theoretical framework developed by HA intelligence, which is the desperate parasite theory, it argues the exact opposite.
Okay, I'm listening.
This theory posits that the abyssals are not some unstoppable monolithic galactic empire. They are refugees, and they are running on severely borrowed time.
Really? Refugees from where? Where exactly did they take refuge from?
So human astronomers had theorized about Planet X for centuries, and in 2842, it was finally observed. It was a dark super-Earth orbiting in the outer reaches of our solar system's Oort cloud.
Okay, out past Pluto.
Way past Pluto.
Got
It was a frozen world just encased in 50 kilometers of liquid ammonia ice. But beneath that ice was an ultra-pressurized, iron-rich subterranean ocean heated by its core.
Okay, so that high-pressure environment is where the Abyssal Cephalopoda evolved.
Exactly. Practically zero solar radiation, where everything is driven by geothermal heat and just immense crushing weight.
So what forced them to leave? Because it sounds like they had a pretty good setup, all things considered.
Well, roughly 500,000 years ago, a rogue brown dwarf traversed the Oort cloud.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, its gravitational pull perturbed Planet X's orbit, fracturing its icy crust and plunging the core temperatures. Their subterranean biosphere just began a slow, irreversible collapse.
So they were forced out.
Right. They didn't leave because they wanted to conquer the stars. They engineered these massive biological arcs out of sheer survival instinct and embarked on a millennial-long transit toward the inner solar system.
Wait, here's where it gets really interesting to me.
Yeah.
You're telling me these terrifying, multi-threaded brain sea monsters with, like, billions of quantum-dense neurons are essentially driving a broken-down car running on the wrong fuel.
That is exactly what this theory suggests. During that massive transit, their technology began to fail. Specifically, their artificial protein synthesizers. They arrived on Earth because our deep oceanic trenches provided the exact hydrostatic pressure over 1,000 bar that their quantum molecular silicon bodies require to just remain stable.
But they were starving when they got here.
Yes. They arrive starving. They lack internal digestive tracts for solid matter, you see. They rely on direct plasma absorption.
Oh, my God.
So human hemoglobin became this necessary biological crutch to stabilize their reactors and feed their population.
So if we just look at the raw mechanics of that, they aren't harvesting us out of some grand evil conquest. I mean, they need us just to keep the lights on in their deep-sea megacity.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it completely changes our strategic outlook. They are trapped in an unsustainable ecological loop. They are highly vulnerable.
Right. So, I mean, if they are that desperate, couldn't the HA just focus on severing their logistical lines?
In theory, yes.
Like, if we disrupt the coastal harvesting pods, the invaders would experience a rapid biological and technological collapse. We wouldn't even need to fight them in the abyssal plains. We could literally just wait for them to starve.
And that is the beauty of this theory. It reframes the entire war from a battle of physical supremacy to a siege of biological logistics.
But I mean, waiting for an enemy to starve when they're actively holding 750 million hostages is a massive, horrific gamble.
It is a terrifying risk.
Plus, think about it. If they are under that much existential stress, running on fumes and forced to maintain this brutal slave grid just to survive, how are they not imploding from the inside?
Which leads us perfectly into the second framework, the caste schism hypothesis.
Okay, lay it on me.
This theory suggests that the external pressure is indeed fracturing them from the inside out. It proposes that a silent civil war is actively brewing down in their hyper-pressurized city.
Between who?
Between the high caste rulers who prioritize reactor stability at any cost, and the lower caste entities who are actually out there piloting the bioships and conducting their raids.
Wait, how do we even know they have castes, let alone feel stress?
Well,
we're talking about alien cephalopods that live 6 miles underwater. How can we possibly intercept their internal politics?
To understand that, we have to look at the incident at the Aleutian Trench in 2978 involving Commander Maya Lin.
Okay.
Her deep reconnaissance submersible suffered a catastrophic tectonic ballast failure. She was pinned against the trench wall at a depth of 7,200 meters, dead in the water.
Wow, just trapped.
Completely trapped. Her life support was failing, the temperature was dropping to freezing, and the pressure outside was unimaginable. And then an unescorted 100-foot abyssal bioship approached her.
Oh man, you would assume it just crushed her sub or harvested her on the spot.
Right, but the HA later designated this entity as Subject Zero, because instead of attacking, Subject Zero generated a localized biothermal aura around her vessel to keep her from freezing.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And then it began to communicate, not with acoustic sonar, which they normally use for navigation, but with light.
They talked using light. Wait, how does a human in a titanium can talk back to that?
Well, Subject Zero used a 470 nanometer bioluminescent blue-green spectrum, which happens to be the exact frequency their quantum neural networks use to transfer data internally.
Okay.
Commander Lin bypassed her failing systems and used her exterior floodlights to mirror the pulses. For 14 hours, they established a resonance loop.
That is incredible. But what kind of data was it actually sending her?
It was a transmission of profound, complex emotional concepts. Subject Zero expressed regret over their great migration, acknowledging they had turned Earth's shallow waters into a graveyard.
Wow.
Most importantly, it expressed pity. It looked at this fragile human in a brittle titanium shell, breathing gas instead of fluid, fighting against the crushing weight of 1,000 atmospheres, and it conveyed a profound sense of sorrow for our situation.
An alien god pitying us. I mean, that proves they aren't some monolithic hive mind, right?
Exactly.
They possess individual capacity for empathy, grief, and even moral ambivalence regarding the human harvest.
They do. And the HA, being a military organization fighting for its life, took that beautiful moment of interspecies empathy.
And weaponized it.
They absolutely weaponized it. They created the Lin Protocol. Using a global network of deep-sea acoustic arrays and high-frequency light emitters, the HA's exolinguistic division began broadcasting directly into the Abyssal's quantum networks.
Broadcasting what?
They broadcasted quantum-encrypted data packets detailing human art, philosophical texts, our recorded history, and the raw biometric feedback of suffering from the coastal labor pods.
Wait. How does human art or emotional data actually hurt a biomechanical squid?
Because their hive mind neural network relies on perfect cold synchronization. Human emotional data, especially the raw biometric feedback of pain, is erratic. It's highly intense.
So it scrambles them.
Exactly. When broadcasted into their networks, it introduces chaotic variables into their highly ordered quantum arrays. It literally causes their networks to misfire.
Wow.
And that misfire induces a systemic glitch that manifests as what we understand as empathy or cognitive dissonance.
So what does this all mean for the war? Are you saying our best weapon isn't a supercavitating torpedo, but basically a psychological guilt trip?
Honestly, yes. And what's fascinating here is that intelligence intersects show it is working. The HA is detecting measurable cognitive dissent within the mid-caste neural networks.
Really?
Yeah. The load-caste pilots are showing increasing hesitation during harvesting raids. Their pulse pattern fluctuations perfectly match the empathy spectrums recorded from Subject Zero.
That is wild.
The HA believes that the lower castes are suffering from the inherited grief of their migration and that they are disgusted by their parasitic existence. So triggering an internal revolt might be the only way to topple them from within.
I love that concept. I really do. It gives you hope, right?
Uh-huh.
The idea that art, philosophy, and just the undeniable weight of human resilience could be the things that break an alien war machine. It feels profoundly human.
It really does offer a glimmer of hope, but we have to look at all the intelligence objectively.
Uh-oh. Here comes the bad news.
Yeah, because while the parasite theory and the schism hypothesis offer paths to victory, the third theoretical framework, the terraforming theory, it suggests that the HA might be fundamentally misunderstanding the board they are playing on entirely.
Okay, bring us back down to reality. What is the terraforming theory?
This theory proposes that the current stalemate along the bathypelagic axis is a total illusion.
An illusion.
Yes. We view the Earth as a static battlefield where we hold the mountains and they hold the deep. But the terraforming theory suggests Earth is merely a temporary staging ground, and the abyssals are actively, patiently modifying the planet to suit their long-term needs.
Modifying it how, exactly?
By permanently lowering the planet's land-to-ocean ratio, the Abyssal Command has constructed these massive chains of biosilicon hydropylons along underwater extinct volcanoes.
Right, heard of those.
Exobiologists initially thought these were just for routing power to the surface pods, but they are actually serving a much darker purpose. They are deliberately pumping deep-sea geothermal heat to the surface to disrupt the planet's thermal currents, like the AMOC.
Wait, so they are artificially heating the oceans from the bottom up just to melt the polar ice caps faster?
Exactly. And furthermore, the atmospheric manipulation they use over their coastal processing centers, that low-oxygen hypobaric cycling we talked about.
Yeah.
It isn't just for inducing polycythemia in the slaves. The chemical exhaust from those pods is actively trapping greenhouse gases, creating permanent planetary cloud cover.
Oh my God. It's like boiling a frog, but in reverse.
Yeah.
They're slowly turning the Earth into a hyper-pressurized aquarium, and we are the frogs who think we're completely safe just because we're sitting on the highest lily pad.
That's a very good way to put it.
But wait, if they need 1,000 bar pressure to survive, raising global sea levels by a couple of 100 feet doesn't suddenly let them swim into Denver.
Right.
So why do it?
Because it expands the total volume of the abyssal zone, increasing their operational territory over time. But more importantly, it systematically eliminates our safe zones. Time is not a neutral factor here. Time actively favors the invaders. Every single year this war drags on, the Earth becomes slightly more aquatic.
Which means those fortified mountain redoubts, the Alps, Tibet, the Rockies,
Yes.
they seem impenetrable now because they're completely out of reach of an aquatic species that, explodes if it leaves its pressurized environment.
But if the oceans rise high enough...
Exactly.
Yeah.
The structural integrity of the subterranean rail corridors connecting those high-altitude bunkers, they will fail under the new water tables. The mountains won't be fortresses anymore. They will become isolated, inescapable islands.
Wow.
The slow violence of terraforming is a patient, geologic approach to warfare. And it's one that a species capable of millennial-long space transits would naturally employ. They don't need to fight us. They just have to outweight us.
Man, let's pull all of this together because we are looking at three wildly different frameworks for understanding this enemy. On one hand, we are facing an enemy that is slowly starving, clinging to our biology just to keep their reactors from going dark, the parasite. Right. Then we have a civilization on the brink of moral collapse, where the pilots of their war machines are being broken down by the broadcasted weight of human art and emotional dissonance. The schism.
And finally, the terrifying possibility that they are simply outweighting us, patiently drowning our planet until our high-altitude bunkers are completely swallowed by the sea. The terraforming theory.
And it leaves HA Command with a nearly impossible strategic choice. Where do you dedicate your remaining resources when you have three completely different threats?
It's a lot to process for anyone looking at this war, but as we wrap up today's deep dive, this actually leaves me with a massive, glaring contradiction to mull over.
Let's hear it.
Well, if the terraforming theory is true, right, and they are successfully flooding the planet, eventually drowning those mountain redoubts and wiping out the last free humans, aren't they destroying their own fuel source?
That is the big question.
Right. If the desperate parasite theory holds up, they absolutely need human blood to stabilize their quantum arrays. So if they drive us to extinction by melting the ice caps, they starve. Are they so single-mindedly focused on terraforming the Earth to resemble their lost homeworld that they are accidentally engineering their own extinction.
It's a fascinating paradox. We might be dealing with a species so advanced, yet potentially blinded by their own biological imperatives.
Incredible. Well, thank you for joining us for this Sunday Deep Dive. As always, for everyone listening, keep questioning everything, stay curious, and we will see you next time as we continue to navigate the dark waters of the third millennium.